spot to sit. Come on, Evans, watch your step as you're heading down the stairs. You're just joining us. Looks like we got to the most seats in the third row and back. We still got room for groups of 2 or 3 down here in the first and second row. If you're a smaller group and you feel like you want to come a little closer to the stage, definitely feel free to do so. I promise I don't bite, unless you're made out of churro, which is highly unlikely, but never impossible.
Turn it.
Looks like we got the most seats right now in the purple row. Still got a few in the green as well. Just make sure you're moving all the way across that row, friends. It's going to help us out a lot. You can see we still got a good number of people. I want to officially welcome everyone to the Animation Academy. My name is Sam, I'm a Disney artist here to teach you to draw one of our classic Disney characters. We are drawing a Pixar character for this class, in fact. A very tall, very fluffy monster who lives in Monsteropolis. He scares because he cares. Who am I talking about?
Sully.
Sully, yes, we're going to be drawing Sully, or James P. Sullivan, as he is known to the government. But before we get started with our sketches of Sully, on the way in, he passed by my friend Emily up there at the top of the stairs. Emily's another amazing Disney artist. She's going to be hanging out with us during this class. So if you break a pencil, if you're going to need the seat in front of you, anything like that, just raise your hand so one of us can see you. We can help you out with whatever you need. If you need to leave early at any point during the class, head back up those stairs, give a big push to any of those 3 doors that you just entered in through. As Emily's showing us, you can push any of those 3 doors, it'll send you back outside. When you've got a bathroom emergency, got to take a phone call, you just remember that churros exist and you need one right at this moment. Completely understand, it happens to me all the time. Again, your entrance doors are also your exit doors. One more thing to talk about before getting started on our sketches. These pencils are missing something on the end. What are they missing? Erasers. Yeah, no erasers on the ends of our pencils because we're going to be drawing in a style called rough sketching. Rough sketching is all about starting our lines very light, loose, and even a little bit messy. Because eventually we want to be able to go back into our sketches and really darken up the lines that we really like. So that in the end, those are the things that stand out. So with all that in mind, are you guys ready to get started? Yeah. Alright, that was sort of convincing, but we're going to get started anyway. We're going to start our portraits of Sully with a circle. I would say orange, a baseball is a good size to aim for. Just make sure you place this a little bit higher on your paper. I would say a little bit above the center is probably good. We want to leave a lot of room below our circle because Sully has a very big chin. We're going to be really building up a lot of stuff below this circle mostly, so I'm leaving a lot of space for that. I'm also using a lot of really messy, sketchy circles to build up that shape. Does not have to be perfect because like we said, we're going to be building in that chin. We're going to be adding a lot of stuff on top of this circle to make it. One of the things we can add on is going to be guidelines. Guidelines will be very, very helpful when it comes to adding in all of the features on Sully's face. I'm starting by cutting my circle right in half from top to bottom and letting that extend below the circle. So it looks like you have a little lollipop on your paper. Maybe it's a cake pop if you're bougie like that. I don't know. We also want to add one more guideline in though, about a quarter of the way up from the bottom of my circle here, cutting this time from left to right. And that is all we really need for our guidelines for Sully. Like we mentioned, we got to build up that great big chin of his. He has what we like to call a lantern chin or a lantern jaw. Really in animation and character design, it's just a fancy way of saying that the character has a very big chin, and Sully definitely has a very large chin. So we're going to start to build up the lower half of his face, starting right on either side of my circle. I'm dipping just down below my horizontal guideline as I build in these little letter J shapes, kind of flaring those out towards the side of the paper there. And as far as the size of Sully's face, if you want to get a rough estimate of how big you want his chin to be, you can measure the height of your circle, however tall it is, and move down right below. So again, measure the height of your circle, and you want his head to be about 2 of those circle's high. So I'm going to give myself a little marker down there. That's about how far down I'm going to want to bring his chin. Now the shape of his chin looks like a big boxy letter U. So I'm going to pull down some diagonal lines from the bottom of my letter J shape. And I'm going to connect those together across the bottom with a nice big letter U. Now Sully here having this lantern chin or this lantern jaw, usually a very confident character, somebody that's got a very big personality, which I think Sully definitely does. And he is for sure a confident character. But can you guys think of any other Disney characters who have big chins and a lot of confidence? What do you think? Mr. Incredible, absolutely. I heard somebody say Gaston, too. Nobody's got a chin like Gaston. How about, I heard somebody say Ernesto, too. Yeah, that's a good one. How about a space ranger that thinks he's not a toy? Buzz Lightyear, yeah. All of these are really great examples of characters with big chins and a lot of confidence.
Thanks for joining.
Both heroes and villains, too, right?
What's up,
so not just a good versus bad thing. It's really all about the confidence, and Sully has a ton of it. Of course, he is top skater for like 11 months in a row, right? We find out in Monsters Inc. So he definitely has to have a lot of confidence. People do that. We're going to leave the shape of the chin alone for right now. We'll come back to that in a little bit. For right now, though, we want to start to add in the features of Sully's face. Usually for any character, the nose is a great place to start those features. So I'm going to jump right below where my guidelines are crossing over one another. Build in a little upward pointing arrow. The shape of his nose looks like a diamond, so go ahead and close off the bottom, a little downward pointing arrow to create that little diamond shape. And his nose is actually going to be the very first feature on our drawing that we can go ahead and lock into place. If you've never drawn with us here before, when we say locking it in, really that's just another fancy term. It's a way of saying we're going back into our drawing, we're saying I choose these lines. These are the lines, my favorite lines, that I want to stand out above all the messy and sketchy lines that I started with. Although this is actually the only place in the entire Disney resort where you are encouraged to be a little bit sketchy. True, yeah. Thank you those 10 people for your pity laughter. It's really nice of you. It really keeps me going. Alright, I'm giving Sully some nostrils here too, just little triangles on the bottom of our diamond shape. We can even shade those in. We want to give our monster a little bit more detail and also make sure that he can breathe there. Something that can also show off Sully's very confident personality is a smile. Part of his expression can really show a lot of that confident energy. So for Sully, I'm going to give him a great big smile here. Right underneath his nose, we want to keep, again, a lot of that space for the chin to really show off how confident he is. So we're keeping this smile pretty close to the bottom of the nose, close to the bottom of our circle as well. It's a good place to aim for. Stretching across a nice wide letter U, and I'm even bringing it up a little bit higher on the left side. We can even cap off the corner of the smile with a little rainbow to show his cheek being pushed up. Sully, also being a monster, he's got a lot of monster teeth in his mouth, right? But because he is smiling with his mouth closed, we're just going to see one little tooth popping out from that lower lip. Really rounding that out, kind of thinking like candy corn shape as I sketch that in. Because the more sharp and pointy features we add to a character, the more kind of maybe evil or mean they will look. Which Sully may be a monster, but he's definitely not a mean monster. He is a very kind-hearted monster. I feel like you have to be very kind and very nice and definitely a little bit cute to get the nickname like the one that Boo gives Sully. What does she call him? Kitty. Yeah, she calls him Kitty. I think that's a really adorable nickname. So again, we want to really use those nice rounded lines to show that he is a very friendly monster. He's definitely like a gentle giant character for sure. We want to start to sketch in Sully's eyes here too, and to really push that kindness factor and that really cute look for him. He also has these very large eyes that bring a lot of personality to him. So I'm going to sketch in these nice big circles sitting right on top of that guideline. And I want to fill in those eyes with some pupils, really bring this monster back to life. Because right now he's looking like he has definitely seen some things in Monstropolis for sure. He's looking a little bit possessed. So let's wake him up, give him some pupils. You can have a lot of fun with this though. You can draw hearts in his eyes, stars in his eyes. Maybe you want to draw a scream canister, Boo's door, maybe some little mini Mike Wazowskis. The options are truly endless. I'm going to stick with some classic circles and have him kind of looking out here at all of us, placing those towards the inner edge. But again, feel free to get as creative with these eyes as you would like. I mentioned a moment ago that Sully, I think he definitely could be considered a gentle giant character for sure. And I feel like the voice actor who plays this amazing character very often gets like typecast as those gentle giant characters. Do you guys remember who plays Sully? John Goodman, yeah, exactly. John Goodman is the voice responsible for this very sweet character. And like I said, he kind of gets cast as those gentle giant characters quite a lot. He played the character Pacha in The Emperor's New Groove. He also played Big Daddy LaBeouf in The Princess and the Frog. And I feel like especially that character, he is like such a gentle giant and he's like kind of a little bit of a pushover sometimes. There's even a scene in that movie where Charlotte really wants something and her dad's trying to tell her no and then she gets upset about it. So he's like, here, have a puppy. Like he just like can't stand to say no to people. And again, I think that John Goodman does a really wonderful job with those type of characters, which is probably why he's been cast as them so many times. But I really can't imagine anybody else playing this character. Which, the fact that I mentioned that, and like, you know, not being able to think of anybody else playing the character, and they actually wanted somebody else to play this character originally. John Goodman was not the first choice for this character. They actually wanted a Ghostbuster to play this character. Which Ghostbuster do you think they wanted? Not Dan Aykroyd, that's a good guess though. Bill Murray, yeah, Bill Murray was actually a surprising thing that they wanted to play this character, which is really shocking to me. I cannot imagine Bill Murray playing this character. But the story goes, they actually brought Bill Murray into the studio and they had him record some lines for this character. And they really loved it. They thought that he fit this character super well. So they called him up to tell him that they wanted to give him this role, to offer him this part as Sully. And the story goes that he literally ghosted them. Like, he just did not call them back. And so they said, all right, I guess he's not really interested in this role. He never picked up his phone. He never called back. So they decided to move on down the list to their next choice, which is John Goodman. I feel like it all worked out in the end because I feel like, again, he just does such a fabulous job with this role. Now I'm adding in some eyebrows for Sully here. I'm starting very light again, back in light and sketchy mode. I'm adding in what kind of looks like these big Cheeto puffs or maybe these little macaroni noodles. Very light rectangles, curvy rectangles. And I'm building the one on the right a little bit higher up. That gives him a little bit more of that confident expression, like maybe he's raising one eyebrow a little bit. But something that we are still missing on this character is the fur, the fluff. And he is a very fluffy character, right? He's absolutely covered in head to toe in fur. So we're going to give him a little bit of that texture. We're going to do that by building in all of these little shark fins or little blades of grass, not only on his eyebrows, but all around his head shape. That's going to give him a little bit more of that fluffy look. We're definitely simplifying it quite a lot, right? We're adding in these little clumps of fluff rather than adding in every single individual strand of hair, because if we did that, we would probably be here forever. Sully in the first Monsters, Inc. movie actually has about 2.3 million individual strands of hair. So again, we're not going to try to draw all 2.3 million because that would be crazy. But we're going to simplify it with these little shark fin shapes. Now the animators at Pixar definitely had quite a challenge on their hand when they were trying to figure out how to make this character look super fluffy and how to make that feel realistic. If you think about the movies that came out before Monsters, Inc., this was actually only the 4th movie that Pixar had ever created. And before this film,
my
the
monstrosity
movies they had
is.
made were Toy Story, A Bug's Life, and Toy Story 2.
Whatever.
When you think about all 3 of those movies, there's not really any characters that are super fluffy. Even the human characters in Toy Story, their hair is very much simplified. Both like Andy and Buzz, or Andy and Sid both have buzz cuts so that they didn't have to animate their hair. Because hair is one of the most difficult things to animate and make look realistic in 3D animation. So they basically kind of just did whatever they could to avoid animating hair in the very beginning. But when it came to Monsters, Inc., they really wanted to push themselves. They wanted to push the boundaries of animation. So they ended up coming up with an entirely brand new program called Physics Tool, or PhysT, that helps them to animate all of Sully's hair and make it look a lot more realistic than anything that had been done thus far in 3D animation. So pretty incredible. Monsters, Inc. was definitely a